because a very, very wonderful Jew whom I love dearly passed away very sadly on April 29th this year. He lived in Yerushalayim Erekedesh. I don't know if any of you knew of him or knew him. His name was Professor Reuven Feuerstein. Have you come across the name? Reuven Feuerstein was the world's greatest treater of children who had suffered trauma, who had suffered brain damage, autistic children. And Reuven Feuerstein was one of the very, very greatest people I ever met, because he did miracles with these children. People sent him children from all over the world, and he taught them to achieve things that nobody ever thought they could achieve. His methods are used in 80 countries across the world. And there was an African American living in Harlem, a young lady who saw how the kids in Harlem in those days were underachieving. And without having met Professor Feuerstein, heard about his work and applied his methods to the kids in Harlem and lifted them out of despair. And he was a great man. And as I say, he died this year. And they asked me to speak at his memorial service. I couldn't do so, so I recorded a video. And his son, who is a Rav, but is continuing his work, told me a most wonderful story, which I share with you. Among the people who adopted his methods and found themselves transformed by them were Native Americans. I don't know, what do you call Native Americans? Native Americans. Washington called it. So, he didn't know this, but they used his methods, and it helped a lot of their kids who were having difficulties. So they invited him and his wife. They said, "We must make a celebration for you." So he goes to the wigwam and in the reservation, and all the tribal chiefs are sitting around with their full feathered headdress. And here's an elderly Sheni Yid, an Orthodox Jew, with his wife. And he's sitting there surrounded by what I used to call when I was a little kid, Red Indians, from the old, not Clint Eastwood, but the John Wayne movies, And he's sitting there and he's suddenly totally obsessed. It suddenly strikes him. What a really odd, culturally odd thing to do. Now my Yiddish is pretty non-existent, so you'll have to excuse me because I don't know. But he turns to his wife and says in Yiddish, "What would my parents think looking down from heaven seeing me here?" And the Red Indian chief next to him turns to him and says, "Favors?" And then proceeds in perfect Yiddish to say, "And what would your parents say if they knew I understood every word he just said?" So he wants to know how come a Native American chief speaks perfect Yiddish. And the answer is very painful, but just very poignant. This Indian chief had been an Orthodox Jew in Germany and survived the Holocaust, and having seen what he saw, decided he never, ever, ever wanted to meet a Western human being again. He wanted to escape from the whole of Western civilization. And he joined these Native Americans. He was a doctor, and so he became a chief. He helped heal. Why do I tell this story? Because Reuven Feuerstein was a Frum Jew. And this was not just, he happened to be a great healer and a Frum Jew. He was a great healer because he was a Frum Jew. Why was he able to get kids to do things nobody ever dreamt they could? Because he believed it. He believed in those children. He believed what they were capable of achieving. And because he believed in them, they grew under his care like flowers under the light of the sun. And I suddenly realized, as we approach Slichus, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is our Reuven Feuerstein. He believes in us. He believes that we can achieve more than we ever dreamt of achieving. Ki avi va'im azavu Even were my parents to reject me, God never rejects me because he believes me. We say in the Torah, Kel Emunah, a God of faith. The Sifrei says, God, Elokim, Kel Emunah, Kel Shehen Min Ba'olam U'Bara'u. God had faith in us, and that is why he created the world. I would wish that on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, yes, by all means, get up and say, Ribbon Shalom, Sham Gazam, Bagadnu Gazam, Al Chet Shechatam. Yeah, we all think. HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns to us and says, you think I needed you to remind me of that? Let me tell you a secret. I know every single thing you did. But what you don't know, says God to us, is what you're capable of. And just know that more than we believe in God, God believes in us. And when we hear the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, God is calling us to grow.